In the quiet hush of a mountain lodge, where the world outside whispered secrets through the pines, I discovered how a single touch could unravel the fragile threads of a life I thought was secure. What began as a reluctant family escape, orchestrated by Richard to polish our image as a flawless unit, spiraled into a revelation that exposed the cracks we'd long ignored. Our marriage had faded into a polite arrangement, devoid of the spark that once drew us together, and Lucas, his son from before, remained a quiet enigma at 30, never fully embracing me as part of his world. I went along with the trip out of routine, clinging to the illusion of harmony, but that weekend shattered it all. Leaving me to confront desires I'd buried deep, the journey up the winding roads was laced with an unspoken heaviness, the kind that settles when words have worn thin. Richard gripped the wheel, his gaze locked on the horizon, while I watched the trees blur by, their shadows dancing like forgotten memories. In the back, Lucas was lost in his music, earbuds sealing him off from the rest of us. This wasn't new. Our outings often felt like solitary paths converging by accident. Pack the trail shoes? Richard's voice cut through, practical as ever. Yes, I murmured, my response flat, echoing the void between us. He dipped his head, already retreating into his thoughts. And Lucas offered nothing, his presence. A silent storm brewing. Lucas carried an intensity that drew me in despite the distance. His dark locks and chiseled jaw, a echo of the woman who'd left too soon when he was young. I never held it against him. How could I, when grief had carved such deep lines in his soul? Richard couldn't bridge that chasm, and neither had I, our interactions polite but walled off. Yet, as we pulled into the lodge under a sky painted in amber twilight, something stirred. The building exuded a timeless warmth, logs weathered by countless stories, promising refuge. While Richard handled check-in, Lucas and I hauled bags from the car, gravel crunching underfoot. "This spot has character," he said, his voice breaking the quiet like a tentative bridge. Startled, I met his eyes. Something flickered there, warm and fleeting before he turned away. Inside, the air hummed with the scent of aged wood and crackling fires. But Richard returned with furrowed brows, his silver-streaked hair disheveled. "Booking glitch," he announced, waving it off. "Only 2 rooms tonight, the third's tomorrow." My heart dipped, the implication clear. "We'll adapt," he added briskly. "I'll take one. You and Lucas share the other." Protest rose in my throat, but I swallowed it, his dismissal, a familiar barrier. The room was intimate, a queen bed dominating the space, quilt blooming with faded patterns under a lone lamp's glow. Pine drifted in, mingling with the awkwardness as Lucas dropped his bag. "Snug," he noted evenly. I forced a nod. Just one night, unpacking became my shield, arranging items in the tiny bath while he scrolled on his device. As darkness deepened, the air thickened with unspoken rules. "Floor's mine, you take the bed," he offered from the window. "Nonsense," I countered softly. "Plenty of room." He paused, eyes shadowed, then agreed. Lying there, ceilings staring back, his steady breaths filled the void, a reminder of boundaries blurring. Deep down, a whisper warned this closeness might awaken what we'd both suppressed. That evening unfolded in deceptive normalcy. Crickets serenading beyond the walls, lamplight casting golden veils over the rustic decor. Lucas lounged on his side, screen lit, while I feigned interest in a novel, pages turning without absorption. Dinner had been rote, Richard droning about deadlines, Lucas and I offering nods like actors in a tired play. The forced proximity amplified the undercurrents I'd ignored, making every glance feel charged. "Not really into that book, are you?" Lucas's words pierced the quiet, direct and knowing. I blinked up, caught. "What gives me away?" I teased lightly. He set his phone aside, smirking. Stuck on one page forever, his ease surprised me, drawing out a genuine laugh as I shut the book. "Busted." He leaned in slightly, curiosity softening his features. "What's weighing on you?" The question hung intimate. "Nothing." I deflected hastily. He arched a brow, unconvinced. "Come on, Claire, I see through that." Hearing my name from him, soft and personal, sent a subtle thrill through me, eroding the old barriers. I leaned back, sighing. These trips, they used to feel alive, didn't they? He nodded, vulnerability peeking through. Before I saw the pretense. Back with just dad, or mom holding it together, his candor touched a raw nerve, honest, yet kind. "I've tried," I whispered, "to fit, to be the anchor." "I know," he murmured, his tone warm. It shows, even if I don't say it. For the first time, the divide crumbled as we shared frustrations with Richard's distance, tender recollections of his mother's light. She made everything real, he said, nostalgia lacing his words. My heart ached. Hard to follow that. You don't need to, he replied simply. Silence wrapped us then, heavy with shared truths. As I dimmed the light, moonlight spilling in, my leg grazed as a fleeting spark. Sorry, I breathed, retreating. It's okay, he said, voice steady, but the air shifted, electric with possibility. Restless I lay there, his nearness amplifying every rustle. You all right? He asked gently into the dark. Fine, I lied, throat tight. I doubt that, he pressed softly, inching closer. Ever feel like you're just going through motions? His rawness mirrored my own hidden yearnings. Every day, I confessed, the words bridging us. In that vulnerable space, our hands found each other, no rush, just a quiet surrender. This all right? He whispered. My pulse raced, reason fading. Yes, afterward, breaths mingling in the hush, regret and desire warred within me. Sorry, he said. Don't be, I urged, trembling. But as dawn approached, questions loomed. What had we ignited that could never be extinguished? The morning light filtered through the curtains in soft waves, but it did little to ease the storm raging inside me. I slipped from the bed before Lucas stirred, dressing with hurried movements, avoiding my reflection as if it might reveal too much. By the time he awoke, I was perched by the window, feigning interest in the misty peaks outside. Morning, he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. Morning, I echoed, keeping it light and neutral. He paused, as if weighing words, and said, then headed to the bath without pressing. Joining Richard for breakfast felt like stepping onto a stage, the air between Lucas and me crackling with secrets. Richard, ever detached, chatted about the day's hikes over coffee, blind to the undercurrents swirling around him. As we ventured out, the mountain trails offered a brief escape, crisp air filling my lungs, while thoughts tangled like the roots underfoot. Richard led, pointing out vistas with enthusiasm that felt forced, while Lucas trailed, his glances meeting mine in stolen moments, searching, intense. I told myself the night was a fleeting lapse, born of isolation and unspoken pains, but each brush of wind against my skin recalled his touch, gentle yet insistent. Lunch by a stream was quiet, sandwiches shared in companionable silence, yet the unspoken loomed larger. Everything all right? Richard asked casually, noticing my distraction. Just tired, I lied, forcing a smile. Lucas's eyes held mine a beat too long, a silent question hanging. Back at the lodge, the extra room awaited, but the shift was irreversible. Richard retired early, citing emails, leaving Lucas and me in the common area, fire flickering shadows across his face. We spoke in low tones about trivial things, weather, trails, but the subtext pulls beneath. About last night, he started softly, leaning closer. My breath caught. We shouldn't, I whispered, though my resolve wavered. He nodded, but his hand lingered near mine on the armrest, a magnetic pull. The evening stretched, filled with what-ifs, until we parted for separate rooms. Alone, I replayed it all, the warmth of his sincerity clashing with the chill of guilt. The drive home amplified the rift, silence now laced with hidden meanings. Richard hummed tunes from the radio, oblivious as ever, while I gripped the seat, mind adrift in memories. In the mirror, Lucas's profile was stoic, but tension etched his features, jaw set, fingers drumming subtly. Our eyes met once, a spark of shared regret, before we both looked away. Home loomed like a sanctuary turned cage, unpacked bags, a metaphor for unresolved chaos. Richard dove into routines, planning dinners, while I moved through chores on autopilot, every corner echoing with absence. Lucas vanished upstairs, door clicking shut, leaving me to wonder if he'd retreat forever. Days blurred into a haze of normalcy, cracked at the edges, the house too quiet without his casual presence. I hoped for a sign, a word, a glance, but he grew distant, polite exchanges masking deeper turmoil. Richard, buried in work, dismissed my concerns with a wave. He's fine, always is, but I wasn't, the void gnawing at me. Afternoons found me wandering streets, eyes scanning crowds for his familiar form, social feeds yielding nothing. The note he left was curt, timed suspiciously, fueling my self-blame. What had I unleashed in him and us? One evening, solitude pressed heavy as I answered a call from Sophie, her concern evident. Haven't heard from you, everything okay? Complicated, I admitted, voice wavering. How so? She probed. Lucas, he left. No word on return. What happened? Her sharpness cut through. Tense times, I evaded, details locked away. Talk if you need, she offered, but I hung up, isolation deepening. Thoughts circled back to him, vulnerability in his eyes haunting me. Was it error or truth? The emptiness swelled, weeks dragging without relief. Richard plodded on unchanged, work his shield, brushing off Lucas's absence casually. I drove aimlessly some days, craving a glimpse, but he was a ghost. Obsession gripped me, checks for updates, fruitless. Responsibility weighed like stone. Had I driven him away? Then alone one Thursday, with Richard out, I drifted to Lucas's room, cologne faint but stirring. Sitting on his bed, fingers grazing fabric, my gaze landed on desk papers, curiosity overriding caution. Rifling through, the letter emerged, my name in his script, unintended for eyes but mine now. Dear Claire, it began, words pouring out like a confession too raw for speech. I hope you never see this, but if you do understand, I can't shake you, us, that night. Wrong as it was, to me it was everything. You see me, make me matter, not a shadow. I've tried forgetting, but leaving's the only way. Sorry for the pain, take care. Always Lucas. Rereading, tremors shook me, each line embedding deeper. He'd fled because of this bond, my silence amplifying his torment. Relief should have come, no more risk, but only hollow ache remained, threatening to consume. That night, Richard returned reeking of spirits, briefcase thudding down. I followed to the kitchen, letter clutched like evidence. Richard, I started, voice unsteady. He turned weary. What? We need to talk, he sighed. Later, long day. No, I insisted. He crossed arms. Fine, handing it over. I watched his face morph puzzlement to fury. What is this? From Lucas. Read. His eyes scanned, darkening. The hell? What does he mean? What happened, Claire? Panic rose. It was a mistake. Mistake? He snarled, voice echoing. Tears fell as truth fractured us. But as he stormed out, slamming the door, a chilling question surfaced. What if this revelation hid even deeper secrets waiting to emerge? The echo of the slammed door lingered like a ghost. The house, now a hollow shell stripped of its fragile pretense. I remained on the kitchen floor, knees drawn up, the letter's creases digging into my palm as tears blurred the ink. Richard's fury had been a storm, rightful and scorching, but in its wake, only numbness settled, a profound quiet that amplified every creak of the settling wood. Morning came with merciless light, the rooms empty of life, Richard's side of the bed untouched, his absence a verdict without words. I moved through routines like a shadow, brewing coffee that went cold, staring at walls that held too many memories. Work offered no solace. Calls from colleagues blurred into noise, my responses mechanical, while my mind wandered back to Lucas, to that night where vulnerability had bridged us so dangerously. Guilt twisted deeper, not just for the betrayal, but for the spark he'd ignited, a reminder of feeling alive amid years of quiet resignation. Sophie's words echoed, talk if needed. But how to confess this tangle of longing and regret? Evenings stretched endless, the phone silent, no messages from either man. I replayed Lucas's letter, his raw admission, you make me feel seen, stirring a warmth I dared not name, yet couldn't deny. Weeks bled into one another. The emptiness, a constant companion, eroding the edges of who I'd been. Richard's things remained, a silent standoff, but his calls were curt, businesslike, skirting the wound we'd inflicted. We'll sort it, he'd say, voice clipped, before hanging up. Lucas's void hit harder, his social silence, a deliberate cut. I drove familiar routes, hoping fate might intervene, but the streets offered nothing. In quieter moments, I acknowledged the truth, that night hadn't been mere mistake, but a glimpse of connection long absent from my marriage. Subtle and profound in its intimacy. One afternoon, rain pattering against windows, a knock shattered the stillness. Heart racing, I opened the door to find Lucas, drenched, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Claire, he breathed, stepping in without invitation. Water pooled at his feet as we stood in the foyer, the air thick with unsaid words. Why'd you leave? I whispered, voice breaking. He ran a hand through wet hair. Couldn't stay, not with how I felt, He trailed off, gaze meeting mine, raw with the same conflict. We talked then, haltingly unpacking the layers, His grief, my loneliness, the forbidden pull that had drawn us close. He'd wandered cities, seeking distance, but thoughts of me had pulled him back. It meant something, he admitted softly, hand reaching for mine, echo of that lodge night, tender and charged. I didn't pull away, the touch reigniting embers I'd tried to smother. And Richard? I asked, reality intruding. He knows, Lucas replied, pain etching his features. Found the letter? I nodded, throat tight. Silence wrapped us, heavy with implications, but in it bloomed a fragile hope, not of easy fixes, but of facing truths together. Richard returned days later, bags in hand, his expression a mask of weary resolve. We sat in the living room, the three of us, air-taut with history. This ends now, he started, voice steady but edged. Accusations flew, defenses rose, tears followed, a catharsis long overdue. Lucas spoke of his isolation, I of the emotional drought in our union, Richard of betrayal's sting. No simple mending awaited. Trust fractured, demanded time, perhaps separation. Yet, amid the ache, honesty flickered, a tentative path forward. In the aftermath, life reshaped subtly, Richard and I in counseling, navigating the ruins. Lucas forging his way, our bond redefined to platonic care, though echoes lingered in quiet glances. The mountain trip, meant for unity, had exposed fissures, but also depths of feeling we'd ignored. Fragility, I'd learned, wasn't weakness, but a call to rebuild with open eyes. Some scars heal slowly, revealing stronger seams beneath. But as I reflected on it all, one question persisted. In chasing forbidden warmth, had we lost everything, or finally found our way to something real? If this tale of hidden hearts and second chances moved you, share your thoughts below. What would you do in the face of such tangled emotions?